Yes? May I help you?
Hello, ma'am. My name's Miles Fordham, and I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Are you with the police?
No, I'm a private investigator.
I'm terribly sorry, darling, but I simply don't have the time right now. Perhaps if you come back next week, I'll be able to answer your questions then.
This is the Spectre Society, right? I'm interested in joining.
Ah, yes it is. Welcome, darling. Our membership process is a bit different to most social clubs. We require a sponsor.
Sounds simple enough.
Well, you see, we ask that sponsors be people who have passed on into the spirit world. Once you name your sponsor, I will attempt communication beyond the ether. When they answer, you will be judged and considered for membership.
I've got a sponsor.
Excellent. What is the name of your sponsor, darling?
Jonathan Davis is my sponsor.
You knew Jonathan? He was such a kind man. Yes, I can feel his presence, and it speaks positively of you. Please, come in, Mr. Fordham. I am Angela Maxwell, the founder of the Spectre Society. Welcome. May I offer you some refreshments? Some water or tea, perhaps?
You're very kind, but I'm afraid I must decline right now.
Well, please let me know if you change your mind.
Would you look at this place? It's like a candy store for psychics. Those are some creepy twin girls. I could see a passing resemblance to Miss Maxwell, actually. There's quite a few members in this group. The plaque says Leonora Pattinson, seer. She looks like someone I would not want to fool around with. It's nice of Miss Maxwell to let people borrow her books, even if they are all just a bunch of nonsense. And coming from me, that's really saying something. Chicken bones and dust for bad luck in business, huh? That sounds awfully familiar. Ooh, spooky. That ghost between the two people almost manages to look convincing. That's probably the storage case for the spirit board.
What a fascinating device. Exactly what does it do?
That is an etherometer. It's designed to pick up vibrations from the ether and translate messages from the spirits.
A great man once said to me, "Bill, you aren't going to get very far in life just staring at balls." He's dead now. But then again, so am I. Must be for the more traditionalist members.
I think I've seen one of these before. What does it do?
It's a spirit board. We use it to contact spirits, and they in turn spell out a message with the letters on the board.
Well, I've got a message from Miss Maxwell if she ever tries to use a spirit board around me. I never much cared for all that mystic stuff. Why should your life be dictated by a bunch of cards?
Could I ask you about some things, Miss Maxwell?
Certainly, darling.
What can you tell me about the Spectre Society?
Where to begin? I formed this club 2 years ago, right after I moved to New Britannia. During our meetings, we discuss our experiences with paranormal phenomena and organize investigations.
What sort of investigations?
We look into places all around the city which have been reported as haunted. New Britannia is teeming with the spirits of those killed during the French and British takeovers of the city. Not only that, but there is a prevalence of mystic religious practices here in Gascon, brought over by immigrants from the Antilles.
Fascinating.
There are plenty of books on the subject over there in the bookcase, if you're interested in learning more.
What made you decide to start up this club?
I began communing with the spirits at a very early age. My twin sister, Rachel, died after falling into an icy pond when we were 8 years old.
I'm very sorry, Miss Maxwell.
Oh, I appreciate your sympathy, darling, but don't feel too bad. Rachel began speaking to me shortly after that. She has served as my spirit guide ever since.
Spirit guide? You mean you still speak with her?
Oh, yes, every day. In fact, I was just speaking with her before you arrived. As I grew older, I realized there were others in the world who were also able to communicate with spirits, and those who had an interest in what lies beyond the ether. And so, once I moved to New Britannia, I decided to start up this club so we could gather and share our experiences.
Do you suppose she can hear what I'm saying? Hey, Angela, try a bit less eyeshadow, would you? You look like a purple raccoon. Nothing. Clearly a fraud. Ah, well.
I was wondering,
Yes?
when you communicate with the spirits, are you able to stop?
If I wish them to leave me, yes. I bid them farewell, and they usually depart back into the ether.
What about the more persistent ones?
You do remember I'm right here, don't you?
Well, just between you and me. Those spirits are best dealt with by having the other kind of spirits. Quiets them right down.
I prefer soporific myself.
Oh? You hear the voices of the spirits as well, Mr. Fordham. But of course, now the reason for your visit to the Spectre Society is obvious. Do you see? All our paths eventually become clear. I'm glad yours has brought you here.
Oh, wonderful. Now she started rhyming. Don't get any funny ideas about telling her about me. She may be a lunatic, but that's no reason to expose yourself as one too.
Do you know anything about the kidnapping of Charles Harris?
I'm afraid I haven't heard anything about any kidnappings, darling. If you wish, I can commune with the spirits and see if I can help locate your missing person.
That won't be necessary, Miss Maxwell, though I appreciate the offer. I spoke with Henrietta Davis, and she mentioned one of your other members, Linda Walker. Can you tell me anything about her?
Ah, Linda, poor dear. Of all our members, she is the one I feel for the most.
Why is that?
She's had a tragic life, but I believe the Spectre Society has helped her greatly. Not only has she made a good friend in Henrietta, she's also dealt with her grief in a positive way. She has devoured my collection of books, educated herself on many subjects. I would say she's become an expert on clairvoyance and metempsychosis. It's always nice to know that the club can help those who have suffered.
Do you see her often?
Yes, she comes by about once or twice a week.
I'm sorry, what was it you said? Madam Psy, what?
Metempsychosis, darling. It's a philosophical term which comes from ancient Greece. It refers to the transmigration of the soul after death.
Is that anything like reincarnation?
Essentially, yes. There's a book on the subject over in the bookcase, which can tell you far more than I possibly could.
What can you tell me about Linda and Henrietta's friendship?
It's so lovely to see them together at the meetings. They're practically inseparable. It's quite sweet. They often leave messages for each other in the guest book. When Linda found out that Henrietta was taking care of an infant, she even gave her a toy bear for the child. I remember Linda lighting up with excitement when she asked about him. She really loves children. It's such a terrible shame about... But please, let's discuss something more pleasant, shall we, darling?
What's this tragic story about Linda you mentioned?
Oh, dear. I probably shouldn't say.
Miss Maxwell, I'm going to be frank. I'm investigating a kidnapping, and Mrs. Walker is a person of interest. I need to know as much about her as possible to help me solve this case. Do I make myself clear?
Well, if it will help. Linda was married to a man named Thomas. Together, they had a son named Alexander. Thomas revealed himself to be a terribly cruel man. When he gave himself over to the drink, he would fly into rages and beat both Linda and the boy. One day, she came home to find both her son and husband dead.
My God, what happened?
The police ruled it a murder-suicide. Poisoning, apparently. Linda has been trying to make contact with Alexander's spirit for the past year or so, but has had no luck. It really is a terrible tragedy.
Do you know Linda Walker's address?
I'm afraid not, darling. Linda has always been somewhat private, and that's not something I consider to be crucial information.
Do you know any way I can find her?
You could always come back for our next meeting. It will be the first Thursday of next month.
By then, we'll have completely lost track of Charles. There has to be another way of finding Linda.
Thank you for the information. It was very enlightening.
It was my pleasure, darling.
There's quite a few members in this.
I'll be going now.
May the spirits guide you to that which you seek.
Hello again, Mr. Fordham.
I have some questions for you, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
Mrs. Davis, have you ever had Linda visit you at the Harris Manor?
Oh, no, of course not.
Then would you care to explain your note to her in the Spectre Society guest book?
Please, Mr. Fordham, I didn't mean to lie to you. It's just that it gets so lonely by myself in the house at night. So every now and then, I invite Linda to come over for tea and some company.
I see. And when was the last time this happened?
2 nights ago? Please don't tell Mr. and Mrs. Harris, Mr. Fordham. If they found out what I was doing, they'd have me dismissed without a reference.
I won't, but I'd very much like to speak with Mrs. Walker. Do you have any idea where I can find her?
All I know is that she works as a seamstress at a shop in Lyon, but I don't know the name. I'm sorry, I can't be of any more help than that.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Welcome back. Let me know if I can help you with anything.
I've got some more questions for you.
All right, I'll do my best to answer them.
Do you by chance employ a seamstress named Linda Walker?
I do, yes.
Is she here?
No, she has the day off today, but she'll be in tomorrow.
Would it be possible to have her address?
Begging your pardon, but why should I give it to you?
Her son, Alexander, and mine were schoolmates. I just found a book he lent my son, and I wanted to return it. I've been trying to track her down for ages, and only just found out where she worked.
Oh, I see. It was a terrible tragedy what happened with her boy and her husband. I know how private Mrs. Walker is, but I'm sure she would appreciate you returning her son's book. All right. She lives at 403 St. Agnes Street.
Remember when you couldn't even bring yourself to trick people into thinking their shoelaces were untied? You've come a long way, Miles.
I'll be taking my leave of you now, Mr. Solomon.
Very good.
Some people would call that humming and hissing the sound of progress. I'd call it annoying. Nobody home. Now what? It says here that Linda Walker is in the upstairs apartment, and someone named Douglas Emafiel is under the stairs. His machine is quiet. It's already gone up considerably in my estimation.
You could learn a thing or two from it, Bill.
What? Who are you? Are you from the Steamworks?
Afraid not, sir.
Damn. Oh well, what can I do for you?
Do you know Linda Walker?
Of course. She lives upstairs. Who's asking?
I'm Miles Fordham. I'm trying to find Linda so I can speak with her.
What's your business with her?
I'm afraid that's private.
Well, she's out right now. You'll have to come back another time if you want to visit her.
Have you got any idea when Mrs. Walker will be back?
Not for a few days. She told me she was going away for a bit. Ah, that reminds me. She asked me to water her plants while she was gone. Just need to remember where I put the spare key.
Did you say something about having a spare key to Mrs. Walker's apartment?
Sure, I'm her landlord. I look after the place when she's gone. Got a bit of a green thumb, that one, so she puts me in charge of watering her plants. The trip up is a bit of a pain, though. My hips aren't what they used to be.
Why did you think I was from the Steamworks?
Because I contacted them a few days ago when my boiler broke, and nobody has come to repair it yet. I should have known better. Those fools always take their time, if they even bother showing up at all. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in here with nothing but cold water. If I catch pneumonia and die, you'll know who to blame.
I'm a private detective, and it's of the utmost importance that I get that key from you.
Right. Private detective. I don't have to do anything you say. You're not really the law. So, nice try. But I'm not betraying Mrs. Walker's trust so easily.
He says that now, but I'm willing to bet he'd do it if it benefited him in some way.
Sorry to bother you, sir. I'll just be on my way.
Miles, what are you doing? You don't know the first thing about steam engine repair.
It can't be that hard to work out.
If you're serious about getting it fixed, I'd suggest looking for someone who knows about this sort of thing first. But if you just want to charge in blindly, be my guest.
Hey, Addie. Here I am.
Hello, Miles.
Addie?
What do you need, dear?
You weren't kidding about business picking up. You're averaging what, about 3 appointments per day?
More like 5. I told you, debutante ball season's busy.
Doesn't it get tiresome?
Not really. You'd be surprised at the sort of gossip I hear from my clients. I don't know what it is, but they just open up to me and tell me all kinds of personal things. You sure you don't want me to give you a trim?
I'm fine for now, dear. Thank you. I can't believe the nerve of that narrow-minded old cow.
Who, Mrs. Delacroix? She's actually one of my nicest clients.
I don't know how you can tolerate her. If I were you, I'd strike her off my list.
If I did that for every one of my clients who thought the same as her, I'd be out of a job. That's just the way it is.
Maybe so, but it doesn't make it any less infuriating. Have you ever heard of a group called the Spectre Society?
I think I had a client once who mentioned it. They're some kind of spiritualist group, right?
So it would seem.
I don't really know anything else about them, sorry.
Addie, did you ever work with or meet a musician in Gascon named Roland?
Roland?
Yes, a piano player.
Oh, of course. That's gotta be Roland Devereaux. Yes, I know him. I'd just as soon never hear the name again, if I'm being honest.
That bad, huh?
He's just an arrogant little twerp, completely full of himself, thinks he's God's gift to music. He really isn't very good. Misses notes like you wouldn't believe. Used to throw me off the few times I sang with him.
Well, he's a person of interest in my current case. Any idea where I can find him?
Last I heard, he was playing a regular gig at the Crimson Cat, but that was a few years ago. If he's not still there, they might know where he went.
Thanks, dear. That's incredibly helpful.
My pleasure.
How are things going with you?
I'm a bit worried about some rumors I've been hearing.
Oh?
They're saying it won't be long before automated hairdressing devices are available to the public. Once that happens, it's going to be tough for me to keep getting jobs.
Automated hairdressing devices? How would those even work? Do they read your mind?
Doubtful. More than likely they'll have some kind of settings or just give everyone the same type of hairstyle.
I wouldn't worry too much, Addie. You're the best hairdresser in town. I doubt people will place their trust in some contraption over you.
You underestimate my clientele, Miles. They're mostly all rich socialites whose hobbies are buying the most expensive and modern things just to outdo their peers. They'll be sending their servants to line up for days before the things are released.
Perhaps, but they'll come running back to you once the machines stop working. You'll see.
I certainly hope so.
I'd forgotten how good you are at écarté. You absolutely destroyed me the other night.
As I recall, you used to hold your own pretty well.
We should have another match soon. That way I can hone my skills.
Yes, we should. As long as you can concentrate, I'm sure you'll get as good as you used to be.
Addie, you wouldn't happen to have any manuals on repairing steam engines in your library, would you?
Thinking of changing careers?
No, there's just a boiler that needs repairing and I need to figure out how to do it.
A boiler? What kind of engine is it?
I'm not sure, but it had Whitney 200 embossed on the side.
Oh, of course. That's one of the most common steam engines around, used in practically everything. In fact, the player piano at the Firkin and Fryer had one, and that thing was always going out of alignment. If that's all that's happened with this one, I know how to fix it. Used to have to do it all the time.
Adelaide Fordham, you are just full of surprises.
Where is this boiler?
Not terribly far. It's a townhouse on St. Agnes in Livingston.
Let's go then. I could use some fresh air. Not quite a player piano, but it shouldn't be too tough. Would you like me to walk you through it, or would you prefer I fix it myself?
I think I'll let you handle it, dearest. Machine repair isn't my specialty.
All right, let me have a look. Just as I thought. It's out of alignment. This will only take a moment. There. just like the old days.
Thank you for your help, dear.
You're welcome. Boilers are a lot like people, you know. Let too much pressure build up inside them, and an explosion becomes inevitable. You'd do well to remember that, dearest. Now, I have to be getting to my appointment with Mrs. Lapone. See you tonight.
Yes? What is it?
I fixed the boiler for you.
What? Are you serious? It's pretty pathetic when some yahoo off the street does a better job than the people paid to do this sort of thing. I owe you, friend.
Might I take you up on that offer and get that spare key to the apartment?
Oh, right. You said you were a private detective, didn't you? Did Mrs. Walker do something wrong? Is she in trouble?
I'm not entirely sure yet, which is why I need to take a look inside her apartment.
I see. Well, I wouldn't normally do this, but you did me a great service by fixing the boiler. I can't just give you the spare key, but I can let you into the apartment.
That'll be just fine. Thank you.
What in the ether?
Cripes, did a tornado come through this place or what?
Looks as though she definitely left in a hurry. I wonder if she planned on ever coming back.
I'll be waiting for you in the kitchen, Mr. Fordham. Just let me know when you're done looking around.
There's a handwritten note here. Valerian mixed with chamomile, sedative effects, deep sleep.
Seems Mrs. Walker's an amateur herbalist.
Maybe not so amateur. I'd love to see the look on Mrs. Davis's face if she knew it wasn't a spirit that possessed her. In fact, let's go tell her, so I can see it.
You've gotten fairly misanthropic in your death, Bill.
Have I? I hadn't noticed. These will make great evidence in Linda's trial. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to have my fill of plants and flowers. Torn apart. She took most everything, though it doesn't appear she had much to take. Nice patterns. I wonder if Linda makes all her own clothes. A fairly recent model. Linda must have spent a good portion of her wages on it. It's a boy. Can't be more than 7 or 8 years old. If that's Linda's son, why would she leave this behind?
Good question.
Well, at least that painting cheers the place up a little bit. And the books she left behind are all trashy romance novels. Why wouldn't she take those? They're clearly the best ones. That bit of torn wallpaper looks almost deliberate. What do you know? She hid a book behind the wallpaper. Looks like a journal. Well, this is pretty damn incriminating.
I'll say. Now we just need to figure out where she's gone. As well as how she managed to drug Mrs. Davis.
Oh, we've got you now, Linda. Thought you could be clever and get away with the baby, did you?
Bill?
Well, you thought wrong. With Fordham and Legere on the case, the only thing you're getting is a one-way trip to jail.
Bill?
And the worst part is how sloppy she was. I mean, really, she couldn't think to pick up a button? She might as well have left a signed confession in the crib for all the good it did her.
Bill, would you just shut up, for God's sake? Huh? Is everything all right?
Yes, everything's just fine. I just stubbed my toe on the bed frame.
You ought to be more careful, Mr. Fordham.
Sorry, Miles. You know how I get when we're close to solving a case.
You always do this. I need to concentrate, and I can't hear myself think with you yapping away.
Right, sorry. I'll keep it to myself.
Thank you.
But you have to admit, she really would have saved us the trouble if...
Bill.
Right. Not another peep. As you were. I thought my apartment was messy. You're actually gonna dig through that mess? I sure hope it's worth it. A receipt with yesterday's date. One-way train ticket to Pierre in Lorraine. Departed this afternoon.
Thought she could get away easy, it seems. Well, I hate to disappoint her.
I hope you were able to find out what you needed.
Yes, thank you for your cooperation.
Ah, the Crimson Cat. One of my favorite underground clubs. Ooh, I spent some wild nights here. Which reminds me, I wonder if Stefan is still working the bar these days. Looks like they've got Bollingworth, Millhopper, and Brooklyn Lager. Not a bad set of beers. Quite the selection. It rivals even the Angel. Fine beer, always served here. Good to know. Good old Bollingworth Ale. Unlike so many other things in life, it never lets you down. Well, not while you're drinking it anyway. The next morning is another story entirely. Attention customers. Use of Dr. Tennyson's Vigor pills while under the influence of alcohol may cause loss of consciousness. It's nice to see this establishment looking out for its patrons. Seagrave's Stasholine, high-quality mustache wax. You know, I always wondered what you'd look like with a mustache. This place has been around for quite some time. That well-dressed feline is Red, the official mascot. Looks like a view of Claremont Street with St. Denis Cathedral in the background. Call me old-fashioned, but I've always felt the piano should be played by an actual human. These automated ones just don't have any soul.
Excuse me, are you Roland Devereaux?
Who's asking?
Miles Fordham, private investigator. I wanted to ask you some questions.
Sure, whatever you say.
So, I take it you're a musician?
A musician? Am I a musician? Man, you insult me. Ask anyone who hears me tickle those ivories. They'll all tell you I'm doing the Lord's work. I am more than just a mere musician. I have a purpose on this earth, and that is to move people, to bring joy to their souls.
And this is after you've set the piano back to manual, right?
I don't expect a layman like yourself to understand, least of all a private eye. Your job is exploiting people's misery. I don't know how you can even look at yourself.
Oh, it's fairly easy. But then I expect you've never gone more than 5 minutes without looking at yourself. Are you acquainted with a woman named Miriam Harris?
Sure, acquainted. That's definitely a word you could use. But then, I'm also acquainted with about 20 other women in this borough alone.
Fascinating. Could you tell me about Miriam, please?
Sure, that woman could talk the ear off a cornstalk.
Oh? She said you didn't talk much.
That's right, I don't. She talks plenty for the both of us. Always going on about how sick she is of the phony high society types, how glad she is to be with someone real. But hey, she's loaded, and she's pretty good in bed, so it's a nice little thing we got going on.
Are you aware that Mrs. Harris's son was kidnapped last night?
What? Kidnapped?
Yes. Do you know anything about it?
No, not at all. I mean, I knew she had a son. She wouldn't shut up about him. Why would anyone take someone else's child voluntarily? Are people that desperate to have their own little brats?
I assume you're not a fan of children?
Let's just put it this way. I would rather have a hot poker shoved up my ass repeatedly than ever have to deal with a child.
Well, that's quite specific.
There is no way in hell I'm going to tie myself down and give up this great life of mine. If this lady's kid's been stolen, she'll probably leave her husband and want a replacement brat. I'm not gonna be that sucker, that's for sure. Thanks, friend. You've really opened my eyes. I think the time has come to exit stage left from Mrs. Harris's life.
You're a real piece of work, Roland.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's quite enough for now.
It's about time.
Mr. Devons?
Yes?
Do you practice voodoo, Mr. Devons?
What?
The chicken bones and dust you send along with your letters. It's a voodoo spell meant to cause bad luck in business. Quite a convenient solution, wouldn't you say?
I don't know what you're on about.
Come now, Mr. Devons. I'd appreciate it if you didn't think I was stupid.
All right, fine. I went to go see one of them magic women in Gascon. She told me about the spell and what I needed to do. I don't believe in the stuff, but I thought maybe if I used it, I could scare Harris enough to get him to stop making the new airship.
Well, I don't mean to be one to put a damper on your amateur witchcraft, but it doesn't seem to be doing you much good.
No, his grandson got kidnapped. That's not something I'd call lucky.
Good day to you, Mr. Devons.
You too, Mr. Fordham.
This Arthur Devons joker is bad news. Not only is he making threats to the Harris family, he also has the nerve to send a ransom note. We have enough evidence to pin the crime on him, I think. The police can deal with the headache of actually finding the baby.
Can we talk?
Go on, I'm listening.
Can we go over my current case?
Of course. What have you got?
Have you ever heard of the Spectre Society?
I think so. They're some sort of ghost hunting club, aren't they?
A spiritualist group, yes.
Don't tell me this case has taken a turn for the supernatural.
Not exactly. It's just come up as a potential lead. Are you familiar with the term metempsychosis?
No, what is it?
Apparently some mystics and philosophers maintain that it's a process whereby human and animal souls are transferred to new bodies upon death.
Fascinating. Some people have such queer ideas. What's that got to do with the kidnapping, though?
I'm not exactly sure yet.
Sometimes I'm jealous of all the odd things you detectives get to look into.
That's enough about the case for now.
Okay.
I'm ready to wrap this case up.
Okay, who's your prime suspect?
Actually, I'm not ready to wrap things up yet.
Okay, just let me know when you are.
That's it.
Then you'd...
Hello again, Mr. Fordham.
I have some questions for you, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
Mrs. Davis, where did you get the tea you drank on the night of the kidnapping?
From my own private supply. I drink a blend of hibiscus and elderberry. It clears the mind and puts me more in tune with the spirits.
Did it taste off to you?
No. Why do you ask?
Because I think your tea may have been drugged.
Wait, are you saying?
I believe Mrs. Walker used her own herbs to drug your tea, knowing you'd drink a cup the following evening. She then snuck into the house after you'd fallen asleep and took the child.
Oh, my word, I never would have thought.
I know, Mrs. Davis, but don't worry, I'm doing everything I can to find her.
Oh, may the spirits guide you, Mr. Fordham.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Well, I'd say we have everything we need to prove it was Linda who drugged Mrs. Davis's tea and took the child. And we know where she's going, too. Upton will want to know about this as soon as possible.
I'll be going now, Mrs. Davis.
May the spirits guide your path.
Can we talk?
Go on,
I'm ready to wrap this case up.
Okay, who's your prime suspect?
It was Linda Walker,
Who is she?
a seamstress who befriended the Harris family nanny. She took the child because she believes he's the reincarnation of her deceased son, whom she accidentally poisoned.
My God.
You'll find a journal explaining her motive at her apartment, as well as the plants she used to drug Mrs. Davis.
But what about the broken window in the nursery?
All part of a false crime scene she set up to draw our attention away from her.
Excellent work, Miles. Did you manage to find out where Mrs. Walker is now?
Yes, I found a receipt for a one-way train ticket to Pierre, which departed this afternoon.
Fantastic. We can send a telegram to the train station and have her arrested upon arrival. You've done extremely well, Fordham. Snelling could only hope to have a detective as good as you again.
You flatter me.
Then I'd better stop before your head gets any bigger. All right, Miles. I'll go through the proper channels and report your information as an anonymous tip. And of course, I'll dip into the department's Good Samaritan Fund to get you proper compensation for your work. For now, go home to your wife. I'm sure I'll have something else for you to look into fairly soon.
Welcome to Lorraine. An awfully cute baby you got there.
Oh, thank you, sir. This is my son, Alexander.
Alexander. That's a good name. Strong name.
Yes, thank you. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm in a bit of a hurry and I need to get to my hotel.
Of course. I won't keep you any longer, Mrs. Walker.
Thank you. Wait. How did you know my name?
I didn't. It was a lucky guess. But now, seeing as I know your name, allow me to tell you mine. I'm Sheriff Zeke Dollarhide. Linda Walker, you are under arrest for the kidnapping of Charles Harris. Surrender the child and come with me.
No, you've got it all wrong. This is my son. This is my Alexander.
Ma'am, please don't make this difficult. Come along to the station and we'll get this all sorted out.
Addie, are you home?
Still at her appointment, it would seem. You know, Miles, I have to say, I'm proud of you.
Why's that?
It's because you actually listened.
So does this mean you'll keep quiet until morning?
I said I was proud of you. I didn't say you were getting a reprieve.
Then I need to figure out how I'm going to sleep through the night without the soporific.
You worry about that too much, Miles. You can sleep when you're dead.
You don't ever seem to.
That's because I slept quite enough when I was alive.
In any case, I need to clear my head. The best way to do that after a case was always going for a drink at the Angel.
The Angel? But you haven't been there since
you died. But perhaps getting back into old routines will help.
Perhaps. It would be nice to see old Patrick again at the very least. Then it's settled. A drink or two at the Angel, for old time's sake.
I have to say, it's been a real pleasure having you back, Miles. I was worried about you.
I appreciate your concern, Patrick, past few months have been a bit rough, but it's good to be back in familiar territory.
Miles, can I ask you something?
What is it?
Well, it may be none of my business, and you can feel free to tell me to stuff it.
Enough with the preamble, Patrick. Just ask.
I know you quit the force, but why are you still working as a private investigator? Why not leave all that detecting stuff behind?
It's all I know. My grandfather was a cop, my father was a cop, so I became a cop. That's just how it went.
Oh, I hear ya. I come from 3 generations of butchers myself. But I broke the streak because I can't handle the sight of blood.
If only that had been true in my case.
Now then, will you be wanting another drink?
I'm not sure. I've already had 2. I should probably be getting... Wait a minute. Patrick, do you hear something?
No, Miles. I don't hear anything.
Neither do I. Another gin, if you please.
Coming right up.
I must have taken a wrong turn back there. Hopefully Addie won't hear me come in.
Excuse me, sir. Could you spare a shilling?
Here you are, my good man.
You always were willing to help the less fortunate, weren't you? But perhaps you should start thinking about helping yourself.
I beg your pardon?
Just look at yourself. I may be a beggar, but even I feel sorry for you.
Your voice. I've heard it before.
Yes, that's right. I'm your biggest failure.
What are you talking about?
Come now, Miles, you're not completely stupid. You think finding and catching me is going to make things better?
Yes, I do. I owe it to Bill, and that's enough to make it worth doing.
That's very touching. But you need to face reality. Let's say you do find me, and this grand chase finally ends. What do you do the next morning? You still have a dead partner, no real job. Your wife knows you've been keeping things from her. Even if you solve 100 cases, it won't relieve that empty feeling inside.
What's your point?
I'm all you've got, Miles. Once I'm gone, there'll be nothing left. So just admit it. You don't want to find me. Not really. Bad dreams?
You could say that. My head. How many drinks did I have last night?
You're asking the wrong person. I was out after the first one.
It seems Miss Maxwell was right about the effects of spirits. Go figure.
Yeah, well, let's not make a habit out of it, all right?